And it was ultimately standing up to this covert abuse that was horrific. And I call my ex-husband my greatest guru because he was yet another teacher that I needed to move my pathway forward, to stand up to. Thanks for inviting me, Betty, to this incredible opportunity. And I'm really excited that Ions is expanding their brand, so to speak, to really allow more people in. I didn't have a near-death experience, but I've certainly dove down into the ashes and have risen multiple times during this walk on this earth. I mean, I've had many out of body experiences, many lucid dreams. I felt incredible energies that weren't my own. I used to look up at the stars as a child and wished my way back off this earth and back up into the stars where I knew I had come from. I was an empath, still am an empath, a super empath. I could really sense the tenor and the tone and the flavor of the other human beings I was around and with, and certainly didn't feel like I fit in on this earth and wondered why I was walking this walk in the family that I was. But it's all come round full circle, and I completely understand why I was in the middle of five kids with two pseudo adults at the helm, one an alcoholic and the other struggling with severe mental illness. And she self-soothed by compulsive overeating. And my role was to bring love and compassion to this family, to hold them together with sticky glue, super glue. It was exhausting. And there were many times I wanted to lift off, up, and out. I was highly intuitive. Actually, I was telepathic. I could read the thoughts, especially of adults, very clearly, and would give them information unsolicited that wasn't so welcome at points and even became dangerous by the time I was 11 or 12. I just shut it down in a box and I began to comply more with the toxicity that I found myself surrounded in. And it wasn't just my ancestral line. It wasn't just the toxicity in my family. That's in my book, Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And since I published that book, I've come to understand that the toxicity wasn't just in my family line, wasn't just in my ancestry. It was the way that I was schooled, the education system. It was the healthcare system. It was certainly the religious system. I remember sitting in the pew while the preacher was telling me I needed a broker to speak to God. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't need a broker to speak to God. And the whole body and blood of Christ thing felt way off to me. It felt almost ritualistic and odd. And it was a system that I wanted to escape from. I wanted to leave, but I ended up not having the courage. That light inside my heart never really went fully out, but it came close. And the abuse was slathered in every crevice and corner of the home I grew up in. And that nothing really made sense. I took care of my father. The fights were brutal and placated, a Peter Pan, and learned to take care of narcissism. And My siblings and I were pitted against one another, but we all have very different experiences of growing up in that same family home. I just knew I wanted to leave, and I did. The morning after I graduated high school, I was 17. At 7:45 in the morning, I left, and I rarely went back. And what I found were the same things I experienced in my childhood, I began replicating as a young adult, and the red flags were clear. And alcoholism was in my own experience, compulsive overeating, all types of addictions, the multiple relationships at once, not being able to keep my integrity, everything that I knew, complying. It was all, my power was falling by the wayside, and that strong intuitive voice was screaming, but I would not listen. And that light in my heart was so dim. But the gift was that I was able to recognize it early. I saw the red flags, and I didn't want to repeat the behaviors that I saw demonstrated in my family and growing up. And I was directed into therapy and started talking about how out of control and completely unmanageable my life was. And immediately the therapist I chose to see started talking about alcoholism and how much did I drink, and was there alcoholism in my family? And I just said, I have fun when I drink, and what does that have to do with anything? And he recommended I stop drinking while I was in treatment with him. And thank God he did, because I found that dropping the substances was the first step to build the platform that I needed to wake up repeatedly to the toxicity that I was walking through on this planet. And as a result of that, I learned that my family members and I were perfectly placed. I was in the exact right place I needed to be. And that repeated throughout my lifetime. I was in the perfect place to learn the exact lessons I needed to learn to wake up out of a toxic system and to come to understand the power that is within me and my purpose, and that I do have value and I do have worth, and that I am here on a mission. But it was decades of unraveling the layers of shellac and sticky glue and saran wrap that were around my heart, essentially keeping me blind to this very truth that everything that I need to walk this earthly walk with power and purpose is right inside my being. And I continually gave that power away. I gave that power away to programs. I gave that power away to, channeling and astrology and sitting in the exact right meditation spot perfectly, practicing my mantras, until finally I was so bloodied and beaten and expectant of, when am I going to get my goodies? I was acting like, my source, my creator, was some kind of stingy Santa Claus. And it took walking through getting clean from addictions, clinical depression, and understanding how to work with depression without, prescribed medications for me, which took a decade. All this took a long time and a lot of process and a lot of help. But ultimately, it was waking up and out of narcissistic abuse. I was married and happily married, I thought, until I saw my power being drained more and more, my life getting smaller and smaller. And I didn't want my family system to deconstruct. And it was such a horrific nightmare to really and truly stand up to the fact that the abandonment was so strong in me that I was willing to go to any length not to walk away from this marriage. I saw my own parents' marriage disintegrate. I wasn't going to be a loser as well. And it was ultimately standing up to this covert abuse that was horrific. And I call my ex-husband my greatest guru because he was yet another teacher that I needed to move my pathway forward, to stand up to this narcissistic abuse, to really go inside ultimately, even after decades of work, decades, and all types of work. I too, like you, Betty, am clean and sober since 1985, before you're born, worked the Course in Miracles, went to Baha'i classes, did so many different modalities to really come full circle to understand that the self-love has to come from my own heart. I had to live life not from the outside in any longer, but truly from the inside out. And I would trick myself over and over again. Oh, if only I do, this perfectly and show up in this way and give this service. Or if I read this and I interpret these angel numbers I'm seeing in a certain way. Or I listen to this guru or that guru, or it was through exercise, and achievement. I was a marathoner in my 20s, and in my 30s, I went into triathloning. And then I was too injured, so I decided I'll be a master swimmer. And always these accolades from the outside in. I truly had to surrender it all and say it has to come from the inside out. I have to start knowing who I am as a being and what my point and my purpose and my mission is in this world authentically, so I can start to practice what I've come to understand is discernment. And I didn't even understand that word. What does that really mean? And why do I want it? I wanted to look and follow, even though I wasn't really a follower. I mean, that little girl watching Barbara Walters in the basement on my beanbag chair, wanting to go to New York City. That's all I wanted to do. And I wanted to be like Barbara Walters. I went to New York City. I was like Barbara Walters. She became my exercise client when I wasn't making enough money working at a talent agency. And she even wanted to come with me when she found out I was being sexually harassed in the workplace to support me. And I had to say, no, Barbara, that's okay. I'm going to handle this on my own. And she even offered me a job to assist her fiance. And I said, no, I can't be an assistant any longer, Barbara. I have to stand up. I formed my own talent brokerage firm, matched celebrities with brands. That got me into producing for television and film and living what I thought was a dream life. It's all these experiences of really knowing who I am as a human being, just like I knew, no, this marriage, even though I wanted it to work and it was a long-term marriage, I knew in my heart, in my gut, it wasn't for me. And I had to walk through yet another lesson to get to the next point. And now here I am in this crazy mixed up planet that's so exquisite and beautiful. And I find myself going back again because the old ways aren't working. And I have to go do more inner work. It's just a continual process of inner work, and trust those tools that I had as a kid that I swiped away so quickly and so repeatedly, and welcome them back in and welcome my beauty as a human being. We're powerful, incredibly powerful. I look at you, Betty. You're amazing how far you've come so quickly and what power you're sharing with others. And every one of us has that inside of us. And even at this point, I mean, even after writing a book, right? You think you write the book and then it comes. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's just an exercise in self-study and exploration. It's just another tool. So I'm finding at this point that I do have purpose, I do have value, and I do have worth, but it is essential for me to drop all the extraneous stuff on the outside and really go within my heart that is now much clearer with the experience that I have and listen to my being. I knew I didn't belong in Los Angeles anymore. I thought I'd be in Southern California for life, but the universe was gently prodding, urging. I hear that subtle voice. And I live now in Northwest rural Montana, where nature is in my face. If you see a visual of me, you'll see a rainbow and a mountain behind me. That's out my office window. That's where I live now after years in New York City and crowded apartments and living in the cacophony of LA and the energy of the franticness. My source guided me here. It wasn't even on my bucket list to even visit Montana. But because I listened, I'm here. It's where I wrote the book that was published, that I hope is going to encourage others to come through with their stories and their truth, and to believe that there's no shame in us talking for real about our experiences and what we've lived. We're here for a reason, and we have value, and we are valiant to be here at this pivotal time. I mean, I see the systems crumbling. They're crumbling. What I believed in, it's shaking. It doesn't even work anymore. And there's a new way. And I know that is inside of me. And now, instead of going outside for the accolades, and I really have to keep an inventory going of it to really get honest with what's real for me. What do I believe? Like, I'm no longer waiting for that rescue from the outside. And I know it's got to come from my own being, my own solid platform from within. And whether we came from a toxic family or religious system or educational system, regardless of what it is, we're all being called to see what our mission and our purpose is, and to stand in sovereignty and balance. And I'm living in a new zip code, literally and figuratively. And now, instead of matching celebrities with brands and producing for television, I'm helping others come to realize how they can live from the inside out. And I'm offering inspiration for transformation. Because if I can alchemize the trauma I have, you can alchemize yours. And I'm living heaven on earth. I have a platform now that I can handle any circumstance that comes. I'm not even quite as fearful of the challenges that are in front of me. I used to move like a whirling dervish. My central nervous system was on overdrive repeatedly because I was always searching for the next right action that was going to take me out of fear and into a place that I wanted to be. And now I'm actually much more cognizant of the breath and what's in front of me and the profound healing capability of nature. And we all can be there. And that's why I'm so grateful that they put you at the helm of expanding the IANS brand and having these incredible conversations that you are, because that's what will give us healing and growth and help. So if anybody's listening and you're responding, I would really like to invite you to my own YouTube channel, which is called Inspiration for Transformation, where I share weekly my own personal experiences and what's helped me transform. And I also have a free course at my website. It's called susangold.us, and it's called Awakening to Your Inner Power. And it's just 3 short, quick video modules with the corresponding PDF that'll walk you through some of the steps so you too can get help on your awakening and your path to have a strong stance, because we are in this together. And I'm so grateful that we're sharing our stories. I mean, my goodness, Betty, when I was back at your age, 30 years, I wouldn't even tell anybody I was meditating. It would, like, people would look at me like I had 3 heads. And so at least we're evolving as a species. And it's so pivotal. It's so profound now to really go within and express yourself. It's okay and it's safe, because there is great purpose. We are changing. And sometimes that looks yucky, right? Walking through that muck. So many times I just wanted to quit and surrender, but I knew the pathway was through. And I really hope that my message has touched somebody and helped one person, and to remind you that you have beauty and strength and value. And I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.